If you're in any sort of pastoral leadership position, then I'm sure you have an opinion when it comes to church boards. Some are fantastic, others are not so much. Some are massive and have too much control, others are tiny and have no decision-making ability. This isn't an argument about the theological structures regarding church polity, but rather in some way, shape, or form, many of us interact with the church board or committees or elders on an ongoing basis. And this relationship between the pastor, leader, and the board can either take the organization further than they ever thought possible or drag everything to a grinding halt. So let's assume you're a senior leader in your church and you have your monthly board meeting coming up. What are some of the most important things you can do in order to not only have an amiable relationship with your board, but utilize them to their fullest potential, regardless of its size or reputation? Dave Ramsey has a famous illustration that he used about parenting. It was a metaphor that talked about a rope and how when correct decisions were made, more slack was given. When bad decisions were made, the slack was taken away. Not to say the board is your parent, but the metaphor remains true regardless. In my experience, we had to start with establishing trust. When I became a senior pastor for the first time, I was 33 years old, and the average age of my board was easily over 55. I had two options. I could flippantly assume that I knew everything because I had theological training and I had young, fresh ideas, or I could take some time to listen to them at where they believed their church was hurting most. By simply being more and more curious about the history of the church, the board's history with the church, as I was digging deeper into the root problems throughout the week, I was able to establish more and more trust with the board. The more you understand about the history of the church, where they've been, the more your board will trust you to make the right choices for the future. But maybe you have been in a leadership seat for a long time, and establishing that trust has been difficult. I think there are two more ways to help increase trust as you continue this dance with your board. The first is to simply do what it is that you say you're going to do. I know this sounds simple, but nothing goes further with people than simply following through on what it is you say you are going to follow through on. Need to have a hard conversation? Have it. Going to establish new vision for the church? Do it. Are you going to start a support ministry for the single moms in the area? Get the legwork done on it before your next meeting, and be sure to give an update to the board when you get there so they're aware that you've made progress on what you spent time thinking about. The second way to establish trust with them is simply make wise decisions about your organization even when they aren't present. I know this sounds kind of ridiculous, but make wise choices. If your bylaws don't need to be rewritten, don't rewrite them until there's a felt need. If the only person who wants to go to 2 services is you because all the big churches have 2 services, don't do it until you have to. Oftentimes, I think we as pastors like to do things for the sake of excitement and change when no one else feels the need for it. I know you're going to say, they don't know there's a need, but there is one. It's our job to be visionary people for the future growth of the church. I think there's a place and a time to push our people and our boards to where they're uncomfortable. But if you're going to do that, be sure to include your board in the decision-making process. Be sure to tell them why you're doing it, and be sure to effectively communicate those things to the congregation as well. Like all things in life, trust is established by creating a track record of successes that allow others to know not only that you're capable, but they have every reason to believe that you're going to follow through with what you say. So here's a few quick things you can do to increase trust on your board. First, get your agenda out in a timely manner. Don't wait until the meeting or even the day before to get them the information they need to be ready for the meeting. Oftentimes, these meetings require important decisions. Give them time to formulate thoughts on what needs to be decided before the meeting goes down. Second, if any decision needs to be made, big or small, do your research and your due diligence on it before the meeting. Not only will this expedite the process, but it shows your board that you care enough to do some of the legwork ahead of time. Third, if you know something you feel called to lead is going to be hard to get the board to approve of, like changing the color of the carpet in the sanctuary, spend time talking to each board member individually. Share your point of view, listen to their concerns, and go from there. And as you know, leadership is never finished. And just because most of your board trusts you doesn't mean that everyone will. If you have difficult board members or people who have a hard time staying in their lane, do your best to clarify roles and come to an understanding that everyone can agree to. And I think you will be able to go much further, much faster.